So last week I talked about items that we had to purge out of the kitchen that were not necessary and we needed to free up space. Today I have a lot of information I want to share with you with regard to how long we can keep fruits and vegetables before we have to purge them. So hi, I'm Lisa Hoerler of Lisa Organizes. I help you live a life with less clutter so that you can focus on things that truly matter. So we have 5 categories, most of us, in our kitchen. We have fruits, vegetables, grains, baked goods, canned, binned, bagged, and boxed goods. So what I want to talk about today, though, is the fruit and vegetables. So fruit and vegetables don't have any labels on it, so therefore it doesn't really have any expiration dates on it. And so the research that I found, which I'm excited to share, tells us how we can keep them fresher and longer before we have to purge them. So I'm going to start with strawberries. So strawberries come in the bin with holes in it, okay? The reason for the holes is to keep it aerated and actually not sitting on top of each other, which makes them old, which makes them ripe faster. So what I do is, when you keep them on the countertop, it can only last 1 or 2 days. But when you take this and you put it in the refrigerator, they're saying it will last 3 to 5 days. So once you cut them, now that's whole, once you cut them, the cut strawberries have to be purged within 24 hours. The other ones, though, if you're cutting them and you want to store them in the refrigerator, you definitely want to find some kind of container. I found a Tupperware container that's actually made for strawberries. And when I put them in here, they last up to 7 days. So really, they're hard to tell how many days, because you can tell when they're bad to throw them out. But I like to know how long something lasts once I cut them, what I can do. So I found 2 scenarios. One, if you buy them and they have like a lot of bruises on it, or they're black, not moldy, but they just don't look right, what they say is you take this, you fill your sink with ice water, and you put them in there for 20 minutes. You take them out, you pat them dry, and I mean dry, and once they're dry, they look like we gave them a reset button, like they're brand new strawberries. And then you can take them and put them in this container that I have, and it should last a week. Another scenario that I read that someone said was that you can take, now this must be for somebody who buys a lot of strawberries, like 99 cents a pound, pints, because they say you take 1 part vinegar to 10 part water, and you put that in a bin, okay, in a sink, and you do that for 2 minutes, keep them in there, take them out, pat them dry, really dry, and then because of the vinegar, it's supposed to last weeks in a container. Now, when we have strawberries, they fly out of this house, so I have not had the need to do that, but I just thought I would share that because I thought if you're a person that likes to keep a lot of strawberries or buy them when they're on a big sale, that was kind of cool what they said, how long that would last. So grapes are sold also in a bag, okay, with holes in it, and they're sold that way so that they'll stay longer in the bag, okay, and you do not wash them until you eat them. So you can take these and put them in the freezer to use as a snack later, but you should always refrain from washing those before you put them. Before you eat them. Do not do it before you put them in the refrigerator, and that goes for blueberries and cherries. So you're going to look at what you buy. If you have any kind of bruised looking ones or moldy kind of looking ones, you want to take them out before you put them in the refrigerator and just pat them down. The key to those kind of fruits is making sure that they're dry. So watermelon, when you have a whole watermelon and you're able to put it in the refrigerator, you can keep that whole watermelon for 2 to 3 weeks. Now once you cut it, that cut part and anything that you keep will last only 3 to 5 days in the refrigerator. So keeping it wrapped and in the refrigerator is going to keep it longer, but I found it interesting that the whole watermelon can be kept for 2 to 3 weeks. Bananas, when they're ripe, they last 2 to 3 days in the pantry, okay, on the counter. 5 to 7 days if you want to put them in the refrigerator. Now, I'm not one that likes in the refrigerator because what it tends to do is it gets black. But even though it gets black, it doesn't change the taste of the banana. But what I did find, though, is that instead of leaving it on the countertop, because mine was getting ripe overnight, and I get a lot of them because we all like them here, we got a hook. And so when you put bananas on a hook, it definitely lasts the 3 to 5 days that they're saying when it's out of the refrigerator and just sitting on on that kind of counter. So that was wonderful because we go through a lot of them. Apples. Apples unwashed and whole can last 6 to 8 weeks. And basically you have to keep those in a dry, cool area. And I don't have very much of that here in my house, so I do keep them in the refrigerator, but I put them in the bin of the refrigerator that will allow me to circulate them. So that is the key to keeping apples fresh, is kind of rotating them every time you go in the refrigerator to keep them fresh. We love clementines. Clementines come in a box or in those mesh bags. Now I keep them in there. That's not supposed to be in a container either. And so you keep that in the bin and you rotate those as well to keep them from sitting in the same place too long. And they will last 1 to 2 months in the refrigerator. So those 2 items, what was really interesting is that people who don't like cold, like apples or oranges or clementines, you can't keep them out of the refrigerator. If you do, they only last 5 to 7 days. So lasting months, to me, is worth, finding a place for them in the refrigerator, because we go through a lot of them. So veggies, and I'm going to talk about the veggies that we like in our house, because there's a lot of them. We like romaine lettuce, okay? Romaine lettuce comes in a container like this, in the bag, all right? It is best to keep it in the bag, not taking them out, not getting them washed, okay, until you use them. Because the romaine lettuce will last 7 to 10 days in this kind of container, and that's why they do it. So different than your head lettuce, okay? And I don't have head lettuce, but head lettuce will last 7 to 10 days as well if you keep it dry and keep it in a container before you use it. So cucumbers, the interesting thing about cucumbers is that when you buy them that are not wrapped, these are called, I believe, English cucumbers, and they're sealed, and so the seal allows them to stay in my refrigerator 7 to 10 days. Now once I cut these, then that becomes only 1 to 2 days when you put it in a container. And what I find with the container is I like to put it either in a plastic container or a glass container, because when you put them in the bags, they tend to get slimy really fast. So putting them in some kind of container in the refrigerator is best to have it last the longest. So baby carrots and celery. Now the baby carrots, as you know, it comes in a bag already, and it's usually got a lot of water in it, but I actually put it in a sealed bag, obviously once we use it, okay, because that can last 7 to 10 days. The carrots can last 7 to 10 days. Now, once you take them out or slice them, again, that is different. Those need to be purged once they're open, okay? The celery, because it's also in a bag, they don't want you putting it in a container. They want you to leave it in the bag so it's loosely open, okay? And it seems to keep them the firmest and the longest. Now, I've had this last for up to 2 weeks when it's kept like this in the refrigerator. Raw broccoli. Broccoli can be, or I've been buying it in 2 different ways. The broccoli, when you buy it in its own container, like with the little plate on it, and it's sealed, you want to keep it sealed until you use it. Once you cut that broccoli and you cut it like into florets, then that broccoli will only last 4 to 7 days, okay? But if you keep it in its container, like this, also this bag has, it's open and it's loose. So once you, like when I open this, I only put like a little, clip on it, and this will last me up to 2 weeks, if in fact it was fresh when I bought it. So any of these things that I'm telling you, it's kind of like in a general, when you buy it, it's very fresh. This is just estimated dates that they're giving us. But I kind of found it interesting because I never know how long I'm supposed to keep something, right? So cauliflower. Cauliflower is sold in a big, huge head, obviously, with, I'm sorry, the saran around it, okay? So I never take apart the head, and when I don't take it apart, it will last, and they say it'll last for 2 weeks if you leave it just like this, okay? Once you take it apart and you're putting the and you get the florets from it and you put it in a sealed bag, then that becomes 3 to 5 days once it's done. No, I'm sorry, it takes a week. It still is a week in the bag, but once it's cooked, it's 3 to 5 days, and that goes with the broccoli too. Once you've cooked the broccoli, put it in a container, a sealed container or bag, that lasts 3 to 5 days once it's cooked. So asparagus was really interesting because I tried doing this and it rarely lasts. Because asparagus is, I love it. It's got a very short-lived lifespan, or selling time when it's cheap anyway. And they said that if you take, it's like flowers. You take the asparagus and you put it in a glass with water on the bottom, and then I put this in my door. They'll say wrap it with saran, but like usually we eat it right away because normally this only lasts like 2 to 4 days. That's it before they're bad. So if you keep it like this, it lasts 5 to 7 days in order to eat asparagus fresh, because I'm usually eating that frozen all year round because I love asparagus. But I thought that was interesting that it's just to put it in water, and it does work because I do it. So onions, we use yellow onions and red onions, okay? The shelf life for both are pretty similar. If you keep it out of the refrigerator and you have a cool place for it, it's like 4 to 6 weeks for the onions. But I have to store it in the refrigerator because I really don't have, again, like that cool area. But the key to that is taking it out of any kind of plastic bags. They come like in a mesh bag, open bag, so you can either leave it in those, or you open that and pour it just into the bin. Again, what I do with those is I rotate them when I'm rotating the other items, like we talked about the apples and the apples and the oranges, to keep them fresh. Now, once an onion is cut, what I found is I have these really nice shaped, containers to put the onions in so that they don't smell up the refrigerator. But once they're cut, whether it's like this or little pieces, they will last up to 7 days to be used in cooking. Garlic is the same way. Garlic you can keep for a very long time in the refrigerator, especially when you don't cut it. Because when you cut these things, then they get dry and they don't last as long. So avocados. We love avocados, but when you go to the store, you have no idea how soft or anything they're going to be. So when they are hard and they're not at all right, I keep them on the countertop, and they're saying that lasts for 2 or 3 days to the point where you want to look at them. Now, when you get them softer, which I have, I've been buying these at Aldi's for the best price. They get soft overnight. So I'll leave them overnight, then I put them in the refrigerator, and when they're not cut, they will last 3 to 5 days. Okay, once you do cut them, an avocado needs to be thrown out after 24 hours. And once you mash them, if you're making like guacamole or something, same thing, within 24 hours. So potatoes, we love potatoes in this house. And we use like all 4 of them. So there's red, there's Yukon Gold, russet, and sweet. Those are the ones that we buy. So the shelf life really for most of those in a cool place, not in the sun, will be 1 to 2 weeks, okay, in a cool area. Now, aside from when you can put those in the refrigerator, which is what I do, I use the bins. I have 2 refrigerators, so I use the bin in my other refrigerator, and then they can last 1 to 2 months in there. And again, as long as I rotate them, anything that's going to be in a bin and sitting there, when you rotate them, that is when they last the longest. Okay, so what they did say though, you know how some of the potatoes sprout, they have sprouts on them? They're still good to eat, but you want to cut them off before you use them, before you bake them. Now the interesting thing with mashed potatoes though, or any potatoes that you cook, they are only good for up to 4 days, and then you're supposed to purge them because there's some kind of bacteria that comes into them that you don't really see, like it's not visible, and that's why you want to throw them out. So you really only keep in already made mashed potatoes, or any mash of any kind of potatoes, for 4 days. So lastly, the most common question I think people have is with eggs, okay? So eggs always have a date on it, but what I've read is that even though this says July 6th, they said that it will go 3 weeks after the sell date, the use date, the best expiration date. It goes past that 3 weeks, assuming that you keep this in the refrigerator though. So I always wonder about that because I'm like, geez, eggs, and never had a bad one yet when I go, less than 3 weeks. So, and we go through a lot of those too. I think the trick is with any food is knowing how much your family goes through. So you're not purging, you're not getting rid of food just because you bought too much. That truly is the key to buying food and storing the food actually, to know how long it's going to last. So I hope you're enjoying this just as much as I am. I am learning how to have food last and be fresher by doing this. And so next week, I'm going to do the other categories. So I hope you enjoyed it today, and thanks for watching. See you next week.